Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Salesforce webinar today. We're talking today about using Salesforce1 to manage your Salesforce org. My name is Jillian Medill, and I am part of the admin marketing team here at Salesforce. We've got some really amazing guests here today to help us learn more about how you can use Salesforce1 to really make your job as an admin even easier, which is pretty fun. So, as I said, my name is Jillian Medill. You may have heard me on the podcast with Mr. Mike Gerholt, who unfortunately was not able to join us today. He's actually in the dentist chair right now. But what we do have is we've got some of these great guests. We've got Chris Landy here, who's our Salesforce1 rockstar here at Salesforce. And we have Steve Williams, who is our rockstar customer, and he is going to give you this presentation. This is actually a repeat of a really popular Dreamforce presentation, and so we're excited to be able to bring it to you in a webinar. So as always, we have our safe harbor statement. So if you haven't seen this before, I'd be surprised, but this basically means that don't make any purchasing decisions based on any of the future statements that we make today, all that exciting blah, blah, blah stuff. So just to remind you as well, we really want you to go social. We've got a great assortment of different channels and different ways to connect, especially for admins. We've got this exciting button click admins Facebook page that we have. We also have the awesome admin hashtag on Twitter if you want to use that to connect with us. And then we've also got this webinar is going to be recorded, and it's going to go up on our Salesforce Developers channel on YouTube. So it takes about a week or two to get it up there, but it will be available for you to share and rewatch and give to all your friends. So with that, let's talk about our agenda or talk about some rules for today. We want to hear your questions. This is for you. We want to make sure we address any questions you have about anything in this webinar. So please feel free to put your questions in the chat window there in the go-to. We've got a whole team here waiting to answer them. And please, be respectful. If you see a question already asked, please don't ask it again. We are working on it. And as always, we will have a Q&A at the very end of this webinar. So stick around for that. We don't plan to take up the whole amount of time giving you a presentation. There will be some interaction here at the end. And if you've got leftover questions that we didn't get to or ideas that you have after this webinar, head to the Success Community. It's a great resource to connect with not only Salesforce people, but other customers, other great, awesome admins as well. So with that, let's talk about what we're doing today. First, we're going to have a great introduction to Salesforce1 Mobile and an overview by our very own Chris Landy. And then we're going to get into the meat of the presentation with Steve. So he's going to give us an overview of the user story Salesforce1 app that he built, giving us a demonstration and then a how-to of how he did it. And he's going to go into a little about using default text with formulas, talk about what's next, and some resources to get started. And then at the very end, like I said, we've got some time for Q&A. So we want to stick around for that. With that, I will hand it off to Chris Landy. Welcome,
Awesome.
Chris.
Thank you, Jillian. So like Jillian mentioned, my name is Chris Landy. I am on the Salesforce1 product marketing team. And if you all are not using the Salesforce1 mobile app, this was our new flagship mobile app that we launched last year, a year ago at Dreamforce 2013. And this is really the app that we call the one app with infinite possibilities, because you can really build on the app and you can customize it for your business, because it's not just an app, it's also a platform. And one of the most amazing things about a platform is that you can build on it, you can customize it, and you can completely make it your own, regardless of the size of your business or the industry that you're in or your specific business processes. And that's the great thing about the mobile app, is that you can bring your existing apps forward to the mobile app, all your customizations that you as admins have worked really hard on in your Salesforce orgs. And then, of course, in this bring your own device world that we live in today, the Salesforce mobile app works seamlessly across all your devices. You can get the native downloadable apps on the App Store for iOS or Google Play for Android. And you can also access Salesforce1 via mobile browser for Windows and BlackBerry. And we also have an awesome Good Technology app as well. So if we move forward to the next slide, here's really a quick overview of everything that's inside the Salesforce1 mobile app. So you can access all of your core CRM and all of your customer data. So stuff like your accounts and your contacts, your cases, your opportunities, everything, all of your objects from Salesforce can be brought forward into the mobile app. And also your custom apps. So any apps that you've built, maybe declaratively or even programmatically, can be brought into the mobile app. So those custom objects that you've made in Salesforce all seamlessly go into the mobile app right out of the box. And as well, we have amazing App Exchange partners who have built mobile-ready versions of their apps, which you can seamlessly bring inside the Salesforce1 Mobile App as well. And everything is packaged up in a modern feed-first UI with collaboration right at the heart of the mobile app. And of course, we have an awesome notification center. So anytime something needs your approval or you've been mentioned on a post, everything comes right into your notification center. And we have this amazing new action bar, which is kind of the evolution of the publisher. And what the action bar does is really helps you drive business forward and get those key business processes done in the mobile app, whether you're logging calls, creating tasks, updating opportunities, or maybe kicking off a custom process or a custom workflow. And Steve, who's going to be talking a lot about about the publisher and about Action Bar and a lot of actions that he's created in his mobile app. And I mentioned that we launched the Salesforce1 Mobile App and Platform last year at Dreamforce 2013, and it's really been an amazing year so far. Over the past year, we've seen over 84,000 companies already using the mobile app. So it's been super exciting to see what our customers are really doing with the mobile app and seeing all of your customization and all your custom apps that you've built. And I mentioned our amazing App Exchange ecosystem. In the last year, we've had over 300 partners build mobile-ready versions of their apps, which you can bring right inside of Salesforce1. So if you go to appexchange.com and look at the Salesforce1 collection, you can see all of those apps. And you'll also see we have over 4 million custom apps that have been built on the platform. And that's really exciting for us because that's where all of the magic comes, seeing the custom apps that our customers have built on the platform. And that's really the focus of our webinar today. We want to focus on one of our amazing customers, Steve, who has built some amazing custom apps. So Steve, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Chris. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Steve Williams. Currently a Salesforce consultant based out of Toronto, Ontario. I have been an admin for many years. I just recently made the move to consulting this year, so I guess now I'm admin for many as opposed to admin for one. I lead the Kitchener user group up here in Ontario, Canada, and I'm also a certified Salesforce administrator. Right, before we dive in, just a little bit about Big Kite. So we are a Salesforce implementation partner, as I mentioned, based in Toronto, Ontario, with some particular skills in financial services, manufacturing, life sciences, and high tech. We also have the proud distinction to be the highest rated partner in Canada from a customer satisfaction standpoint. All right, diving in. So today's app's all about capturing user stories. So some of you may be familiar with user stories as a method for capturing business requirements. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, it's typically adopted as a part of an agile implementation methodology. But whether you're agile process-based or not, user stories are a great way to start that conversation with your end users. A little bit about them. So they're a method of capturing requirements by focusing on the actual business need. A user story typically follows the syntax of, as a specific type of user, I want to achieve some goal for a particular reason. This narrative really helps you kind of move away from requests from your users, of I just need these 2 fields or I just need these checkboxes. I'm sure as admins or BAs, you've had plenty of experiences where you have, an educated user who's kind of savvy about the platform, they know their business process, and they just want a checkbox or they just want a pick list field. Whereas, if you were to get to the heart of the requirements after a little back and forth, after a little, creative Q&A, you realize that what they really need is a custom object with some of its own attributes to properly capture that relationship. User stories, I've found in my experience, have been a great way to kind of skip that initial back and forth, that initial song and dance of, no, you don't need a checkbox, what you actually need is this. And it's all just switching the narrative. putting it in the first person has some really kind of interesting psychological benefits as well. I found it encourages the requester to take ownership of what they're asking for. So if what I really need is a detailed report that's going to give me, say, the status of a particular business process, and I ask you for a checkbox, and you give me that checkbox, and 3 months later I come back and I say, well, the checkbox isn't really giving me the reports that I need. It's easy for the user to separate themselves from the accountability of the actual deliverable, which is that report. Whereas if they were to come to you and say, as a operations user, I need a report that's going to give me the status of this particular business process so that I can ensure everything's flowing smoothly, then you as the admin would have been able to leverage your own Salesforce knowledge and your own expertise designing solutions to give them that actual solution, which was the custom object, not just a pick list field. User stories are also, they're not the be-all and end-all of the requirements conversation. This is the beginning. You're going to state a need. You have a business need. You're going to be able to articulate it to me just in common business language. And then again, I'm going to be able to use my Salesforce knowledge, my platform expertise in designing the solution for you that's actually going to meet your need. So again, instead of just facilitating functional requests, we're able to alter the narrative to make it more of a statement of business needs, and that gives us an opportunity as admins to demonstrate our knowledge and our expertise around Salesforce in designing and delivering that solution. So what drove me to build this particular app? I was working in an org where I had a existing request object. A lot of us are probably either using cases or a custom object, and we have a single text field that users can go in and type in what it is they need. It's a description field or a notes field, something along those lines, and you'll get everything from 2 lines that says this doesn't work to very detailed, complex requirements. Not too much structure, not too much format. I wanted to try again and switch that narrative and drive my end users towards that user story format. So the app was something that enabled me to do that, because this was something I can extend to my users to enter user stories, and it's also something that I could use myself to articulate their requirements in that format when I entered it into the system. I wasn't really happy with what I was getting out of my existing ticketing app. It was, again, just a lot of different types of requests, a lot of text without as much details. I wanted to add some more structure by formatting the requests. So again, I wanted to make sure that as I was capturing this information, it was coming in the format that I wanted, to avoid the time spent in that back and forth song and dance waiting for either email responses or responses to chatter posts. Again, switching that narrative to business needs as opposed to solution requirements or functional statements was great. The other thing was at the time I was sitting in a different building from the majority of my stakeholders, so a lot of my Salesforce conversations were happening either in the elevator or in the stairwell or in the hallway. Typically, I was on my way from one meeting back to my desk. I would run into a couple of stakeholders, and let's say, I was meeting with customer support to talk about some of their requirements, and on the way back, I run into someone from marketing and have a conversation. By the time I got back to my desk, maybe I've had 2 or 3 more conversations, and I've lost the gist of what we were talking about. And the last thing I want to say to an end user when they come to me with a need or with a question is, please go enter a ticket in the system for me, or I'm going to try and get back to my desk to enter that ticket. And by the time I get back there, I just simply either don't remember or something else has grabbed my attention. There's a fire that needs to be put out. So I thought to myself, hey, I've got my phone on me all the time. I've got this great publisher action that's got my syntax and my format in it. If I can use Salesforce1 anytime I'm around, anytime I'm having one of these conversations, I can use my mobile device to just very quickly enter that information. So I have the ability to capture business needs anytime, anywhere, regardless of where I am. All right, so let's take a quick look at the app itself. Great. Okay. So one thing you'll notice as I'm in Salesforce1, I'm actually working in a projects object. This could be your cases, your requests, your SFDC issues, whatever it is you're using to capture end user needs or tickets. I'm just going to navigate to that object, and what I've done for some of those on-the-go conversations is I would have a catch-all project for each department. So let's say I ran into a sales user in the hallway and I wanted to document one of their requirements. I'm just going to go to my sales catch-all project. And from there, I'm going to bring up my publisher actions. You can see I've got the action bar here, all my different user stories. I'm just going to bring up my user story. Okay. You'll notice here's my publisher action. The name is pre-formatted for me. I don't have to put that in. I've just got a very simple narrative field. And one of the great things about using a mobile device is all our mobile devices today have terrific voice recognition and voice capture. So I don't even have to type. I can just dictate to this and articulate what it was that I was just having a conversation about. So I was just bumped into a sales VP in the hall, and he expressed to me that as a sales manager, I want to be able to report on at-risk opportunities so that I can take corrective action. And since I fumbled in my speech there, I'm just going to make a little bit of an edit. I'm going to go in there, I'm going to select my user. This is my stakeholder. This is Jeff. He's my sales VP. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to submit that. So just like that, I've got the gist of that conversation. I have a common language user story that tells me what this person needs. When I get back to my desk, it's in Salesforce waiting for me to take action on it. It's in my queue. It's not in my inbox. It's not at the back of my brain hoping that I remember it by the time I get back to my desk. Just quick and easy, grab those little micro moments to capture those requirements. Okay, so we've seen the app. That's just a quick demo. We'll take a little bit more of an in-depth look at it a little later on. But that's basically the gist of it. Super simple, very targeted, just to capture those little lightning in a bottle moments. So how did I actually build this? So it talks about this is designed to be a bolt-on. A lot of admins have, as I've mentioned a few times, request management or we're using cases. So this app is designed to just bolt on to your existing request management app as an object to capture these user stories. So we're going to build a new custom object for the user stories themselves. We're going to create a publisher action, and I'm going to talk about a little bit of the secret sauce here, which is some of the really cool stuff that's embedded in the functionality of these publisher actions. Right. So the custom object. You noticed in the publisher action I showed you there was a single field to capture the narrative. When I first built this app, my requirements were to capture user stories and then take them through and extend them into test cases. And I had to export my user stories into Excel to facilitate UAT testing. So I had 3 different users working as a sales user role to do their UAT. It was in a new implementation, so I wanted to be able to give them a spreadsheet that they could work on, do all their testing, capture those results, and then pass them back to me. That's what drove me to have a single field for narrative. An alternative design, one that I've actually prefer now that I've been working with the app for a little while, is to have an individual field for each of the narrative sections. So a field for the as-a statement, the field for the so that, and the field that, or the field for I want to, and a field for the so that. One of the other key features of this object is a master detail relationship as opposed to a lookup to that project parent object. This comes in handy later on by giving us the ability to facilitate that native summary, roll-up summary count. The other thing you notice I have that stakeholder field so that I know who the requester is. A great little trick I picked up on the Success community a few years back was this user lookup formula. So because I've got a master detail relationship on this object, I'm not going to have an owner field. And I've got a custom user lookup telling me who my stakeholder is, but what if I want to give that stakeholder the ability to create their own report or their own filtered list view for their user stories? This user lookup formula, all it is it takes a look at that field and compares it to the running user, and if the running user is the user that's in that field, it returns a 1, and if not, it returns a 0. So I can now go to my user story custom tab and create a list view that is my user stories, and I just have my only filter criteria needs to be stakeholder user lookup formula equals 1, and then I've created one list view that is now usable for every single person in my org who is going to be a stakeholder on my user stories. As I mentioned, when I originally built this, I wanted to extend it so that I could facilitate UAT testing. So you can actually, you'll see some fields in here that I haven't really talked about. And also in the deck after the webinar, if you download the deck, there's an appendix that has all the fields and formulas that I've used to make this testing, things like your expected results, your basic flow, your assumptions, etc. All right, so we've got our custom object. Now we need to build our publisher action. So publisher actions are contextual. We want to access the action based on where the user is. So I'm coming in from a project and I want to insert a user story. So my action is actually going to exist on my project record. So from the project custom object, I'm just going to scroll down to my button links and actions related list, and I'm going to click on a new action, and that's going to take me into create my publisher action. Once I'm in that create screen, just a couple of values we need to provide here. The action type list, this is going to be either a create or an update. The target object is going to be based on what relationships you have to your source object. So because I have that master detail relationship, my user story object is going to be available in this dropdown. Any other objects that I have, lookup relationships or master detail relationships, will be available here as well. The standard label type, this is great to use if you're going to be displacing an existing action. So let's say you wanted to put a custom version of log a call or left a voicemail out there. The standard labels are great for that purpose. If you're not, I would recommend using a custom label. You'll also want to keep the label as short as possible. This is the text that's actually going to show up in the mobile app, going to show up on the chatter feed in the desktop. So you don't want to get too verbose here and start introducing, lots of line breaks or too many words. You want to try and keep it short and sweet. The name's going to auto-populate for you the way those name fields do. And of course, as good admins, we want to go ahead and put some information in that description field so that 6 months down the road, we can remind ourselves why the heck we built this thing and why we made the choices that we did. Lastly, you're going to want to choose an icon. Icons are, I think, even more important now with the new version of Salesforce 1 with the action bar. So prior to version 7, when you popped up your publisher action menu, you would see kind of the pictures and all text. But now that we've got that quick action bar, the icons are going to start getting associated to the actions in our user's mind. So you'll want to pick an icon that is relative to what it is your publisher action is really doing. I went with the lightning icon because, as I mentioned, I wanted to capture those kind of lightning in a bottle moments and those hallway conversations and elevator conversations. This was, of course, before Parker absconded the Lightning brand with his fabulous Lightning Man character. So, yeah, you can choose different icons there. All right. So we've built the action. Now we want to go and update its layout. So the layout for the publisher action, very similar to the page layout editor. This is going to be a familiar UI for you admins who have built page layouts. I prefer a single column since I'm working with large text areas. I want to keep it nice and succinct. One thing I did notice with the newest version of Salesforce 1 on iOS, it's going to default you to a full page layout, so you may want to play around with that. With the older versions of the app, it would pop up in the middle of the screen, so a single column layout was nice because it kind of kept everything neat and tidy. One other thing you're also going to want to think about is the user context. So publisher actions are great for Salesforce 1. They're also fantastic for desktop via the web browser. On Salesforce 1, the save button is always going to be visible regardless of where the user is on the publisher action. But on the desktop, the submit button is going to be at the very bottom of the feed. So if you introduce too many fields that you don't necessarily need, your user are going to have to scroll before they can actually click submit. And I know it sounds like not too much, but just keeping in mind how many actions they have to take to actually put this information in the system. Okay, so if you're going to be using it via the browser, you want to consider keeping it short and sweet. If you think that a field, could be good to have for reference, but it's not necessarily needed, I would recommend maybe taking it out depending on what the user context is. All right. So we've built our object, we've built our action, we've configured the layout. Now we need to deploy it. And since we're working declaratively in Salesforce, deploy really just involves a couple of mouse clicks, no test cases or test coverage or anything to worry about. What we're going to do here is we're going to go to the page layout of our parent object. So again, I'm in my project custom object here. I'm going to go into the page layout editor, select the actions option from the list at the top of the page, and then just grab my publisher action and drag it down into the action settings. One other thing I will mention here, especially with the new version of Salesforce 1, the new action bar combines standard and custom buttons and publisher actions, and the order is preset. So if you are using Salesforce 1 currently with publisher actions, I would definitely recommend going and taking a look at the latest version of the admin guide that's got full details onto what's actually controlling that sort order and how the action bar is configured. Because now that those two elements have been combined, you're going to notice some differences. So definitely go take a look through that admin guide there. Okay. So our publisher action is deployed. You know, what's some of the secret sauce here? Why do I get so excited about publisher actions? They're an incredibly powerful tool for enabling these microtransactions. You know, I can't believe we now live in a time where opening my browser, logging in, navigating to a record, clicking edit, and scrolling is too much work. We need these interactions with the system to be quick and easy, and we need to make sure that we are making it as simple as possible for our users to give information to the CRM system. I mean, what's the biggest risk for any CRM implementation is users not putting data in it. So we need to make sure that we're making it as efficient and as easy as possible so that our users don't have any roadblocks to giving us that very valuable information. Another great thing about publisher actions is that you can use you can set predefined values, and I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. But you can use formulas that reference the source record to set default field values. This is one of the most exciting things for me. You would have noticed when I did that demo, the name field was auto-populated for me. It was formatted in the way that I wanted, and it was using information from my source record. So my user story name actually had the project name in it, and it had a little number on it telling me what number user story it was. I mean, how many times have you gone, you've created a custom object, you've got this name field, but it's really not relevant to your business process. You go and you try and set a default value on the field settings, and you get into that familiar formula window, and you go to look for a merge field, and all of a sudden you can't add any field references to that default text. And you think, what the heck's going on here? So now I've got this name field, and I either have to ask my user to put in some text, and then I'll do a little switcheroo on them after they've clicked save, and I'll use a workflow to concatenate some values and format that formula in the way that I want. Or I've got an auto number that isn't really relevant, but I went with auto number again to save my users some of that time. The publisher actions let us do this and let us demonstrate it to the user, so there's no surprises. And my favorite part about this is that I can actually reference values from my source records using merge fields and put them into the fields and show them to the user before they go ahead and click submit. Publisher actions are just simple. Again, we want to keep these things very targeted, very narrowly focused. I want to make sure that my publisher action is contextual and that my users putting that information in where they need to. They don't have to. I can eliminate scrolling. I can eliminate clicks. I can eliminate tabs just by giving them actions for specific use cases. Another great feature of publisher actions is as of the summer 14 release, they're available on the Salesforce1 Mobile App. If for some crazy reason you haven't enabled chatter in your org, you can still push these publisher actions out to the mobile app for your users that way. Okay. So let's take a look at some of this cool stuff I've been gushing about for the last few minutes. Just get my app back here. Right. There we go. Okay. So there's my sales catch-all project. Yeah, it's doing that formatting thing again for me. Wait 1 second here, guys. I'm one of those people who never updates their iOS version, so bear with me for 1 second. Here we go. Okay, so those predictive text formulas. So if we look at my user story, here's an example. You can see in the name field here, I'm using my project name. I've just added a little bit of text, that US, and then the number 6. This is actually being driven based on that master detail relationship that I talked about earlier. So I've got that master detail relationship that is driving a roll-up summary count on the project object. So I'm leveraging that roll-up summary count so that I can number my user stories as they're going in. I've got them named contextually to the project, and again, my user knows and can see, and they don't even have to bother with that field. I can also use it to help drive my syntax out to my end users. So I want my end users to start putting in their information. So again, I can put predefined text in this field to guide them, and all a user has to do, or all I have to do, is come in here and say, you know, as an admin, I want to capture requirements anywhere, anytime, so that I can be awesome. I can learn how to type. And then I've got my sequence counter there. I can add a user. I can just go ahead and click submit. So again, I'm able to use those formulas to put them up on put the predictive text up on the screen in front of the user, save them some time, make things a little bit easier for them. I mean, the worst thing I think we could possibly do as admins is ask our end users for information that the computer already has. So if the system already has that information, this is a great way to put it up on the screen in front of them so that, again, we're not asking it for them again. It's there for them to reference, and all I'm demanding of my user is what's in their brain that the system doesn't already have. Okay. I also mentioned sort of the evolution of this app, you know, taking it into test cases. So I'll show you one more action here where I'm actually using a different architecture. This is where I've broken it out. I've got a theme for my user stories. I've got different fields for the different areas of the user story itself. Again, you can see I'm still using my predefined field values for my name here. And then again, in my assumptions and basic flow, these are also predefined field values on the publisher action. So I can actually insert numbers and line breaks so that if it's an end user entering this as opposed to myself, I can guide them to use a numbered list format as they're doing it. As I got a little bit more agile, I started adding a checkbox for, is this an Epic user story? So is this something larger that I need to drill into? And then what are some of the related user stories as well? So again, my publisher action is it's super focused. I've got a couple versions here. I've got a more detailed one. I'm sitting down, we're having a conversation, or I've got my very simple one. I'm passing you in the hallway, and you know what? I don't even want to type. I'm just going to hit Siri here, and you're going to tell me what you need. It's going to go into the text field, and I'm going to click save. One and done. It's in the system, and we're ready to now start the requirements conversation when I get back to my desk. So back to the presentation. So how did I actually pull some of these formulas off? If you look here, so once I've created my publisher action, when you go to view its detail page, you'll see this predefined values related list at the bottom. So I'm going to click new there. I'm going to be brought into my very familiar formula edit screen. It's the same formula editor I use in workflows and validation rules. So I should be fairly familiar with that. You'll notice that the line breaks. So again, I'm just using a simple BR tag here to insert those line breaks. The name field, this formula is a little bit daunting, but you can actually see I'm using the project name value. I've added a little bit of text, and then what I'm doing here with this little formula here is I'm just padding the numbers from 1 to 9 with a 0. There's nothing worse than going to sort a list or sort a table and you get 1, 11, 12, 13. I hate when that happens, so I throw zeros in front of 1 to 9 so that regardless of if I'm viewing this in a CSV or an Excel or I'm viewing it in the system in a list view, I click on sort, I get that nice sort without having to use an actual number field. Here's my narrative formula. Again, I've got my text, I've got my line breaks, I'm padding that field for the user. And then again, my sequence counter. So this is using my roll-up summary value that I've got on my parent object. And again, I'm just using that. I'm just padding those numbers with a 0 to get that sort functionality. Don't worry about trying to grab the formulas. The deck will be available for you guys to download. All of these are in there. So if you're scrambling to try and write some of these down or do some screen captures, don't worry about that. It's all out there after the fact for you guys to take home and play around. Okay, so what comes next? So again, as I mentioned, download the slides, all the stuff I've talked about, those test fields. There's tons of more formulas and details in there. What I've tried to deliver today is really the foundation of this app. How can I start changing the narrative? How can I use Salesforce to drive my users to giving me statements of business need versus solution requests? How can I enable myself as an admin to capture those user stories regardless of where I am? And how can I even extend this app to my own users, whether it's within Salesforce or via Salesforce1, so that they can start giving me those business requirements in the format that I prefer? Help me change that narrative. Okay. So yeah, download the slides, get the config. You can bolt this onto your existing request management app. If you don't have a request management app, check out the Button Click Admin blog. I know there's an article there from a few years back that has instructions on how to build out that custom object for you. There's some decisions to be made between using cases or using a custom object if you don't have something for request management in your org currently. Extend the app for UAT testing. So I've never met anyone who actually likes writing test cases. And your project gets to the final week, and it's who's going to write the test cases? Am I writing the test cases? I thought they were writing the test cases. Ah, crap! I got to write the test cases. I really like user stories because I find they get you 60% of the way there for your UAT test cases. Depending on the complexity of the functionality, of course, you may have to write and have much more detailed, end-to-end or integration testing. But for just some basic business process functionality in Salesforce, I've found that user stories will get you most of the way there in terms of capturing at least what are the scenarios that you have to test. And then from in there, you can add in your basic flow and your acceptance criteria, you can add sort of the individual details that you need to be validating as you work through that. So this is a great way to take the beginning of the conversation, leverage it all the way through to the completion of your project, and not be stuck at the last minute, up late at night trying to pump out test cases, because I'm sure none of us have ever done that before. You can use a lookup field if you want to execute the testing from within Salesforce. So if you have a single tester, just use another custom lookup field instead of the stakeholder. Have a test user field on there, and then you can assign it out to the test users, and they can update their test status directly in the system. If you've got a team of users who are going to be doing testing, export it to Excel. And have them do their testing that way and pass their reports out to you. So again, yeah, really just try to give you guys the foundation of something. You can see I showed you sort of my end result. That's a year and a half after building the first iteration of this app. It's evolved with me, so you can take it, make it your own, and keep going that way. I think. Okay, great.
All right, Steve, that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your amazing app. And I think it's really cool to be able to see how you can customize Salesforce1 to really help you do your job as an awesome admin and be even more awesome. So thank you for being an amazing example of that and sharing with us today all of the good stuff.
Thanks.
So yeah. So if those of you that are on the webinar, we really want, before we get into question and answer, I really want to remind you that we want your feedback. We want to hear what you think about the webinar, about the presentation, all that good stuff. So please take a second and go to this Get Feedback survey and give us your thoughts. And that link will also be posted along with the rest of the resources for this webinar. So with that, let's get into some Q&A.
Yes, we have lots of good questions. Thanks for asking questions along the way. So we're going to go ahead and we have about around 5-ish that I think we're going to go ahead and ask out loud here. So someone asked, if we create an app, how do we make it visible for Salesforce1? And I'll answer, and then Steve, if you have any color to fill in from the perspective of admin, that would be awesome. So If you're, it kind of depends on the type of app that you're building. If you're building an app or an object declaratively, that will be instantly available on your mobile device. So there's really nothing you have to do to make that custom object available or custom app available. But if you're using code to build that that custom app, like maybe you're using Visualforce, there is a little small extra step. There's a small checkbox that says make available for Salesforce1 Mobile. And you can find that little checkbox at the top of your Visualforce page. And if you want more information on this, we have an amazing admin app guide. It's available on developer.salesforce.com. So I highly encourage you admins that want to go a step further and start bringing some of your custom apps that you've built declaratively, bring those into Salesforce1. I highly encourage going to that admin guide. And Steve, do you have any other color to add to this question?
No, I think it's definitely test, especially if you've got a mixed environment of devices out there, different operating systems, different hardware. Try your best to recruit as many users to test for you as possible. It is one of the more consistent mobile experiences. I mean, I'm sitting here, I've got an iPad at my desk, I've got an Android device over here, and I've even got a couple BlackBerries over on the corner here, and the experience is really consistent across the different platforms, but definitely if you've got a mixed user base, just especially if you're working with custom apps and with Visualforce, you'll want to make sure that you're testing on every operating system.
Awesome. That's great advice. And another question. So someone asked, when will Salesforce1 be completely rolled out to Android users? I heard it's in incremental updates. And yes, that is true. We started rolling out Salesforce1 7.0, which is our newest version of the mobile app. We started rolling that out to Android users on Google Play. We started on Monday. So each day we were increasing by about 10 to 15% to our user base. We were phasing it out over the course of the week. And so everyone should have that in their Google Play ready for update by the end of the week. So for those Android users, you'll have it this week. For iOS users, you got it about 3 weeks ago. So by the end of this week, all of our Android and iOS users should have Salesforce1 7.0 in their hands. And let's see, another question. This is a great one that Steve demoed. Someone asked, what is the speech recognition feature that you use to enter the user comments? Our sales team would love that.
So that was just Siri. So in Salesforce1, here I can bring up my demo screen again for you. So when you actually click into a text field, let me just get this up. When you click into a text field, you'll see on your keyboard on your mobile app that a little microphone button. So if I bring up the app here again, let's go into my use case. Story. Here we go. So you'll notice here that on my keyboard, I've got a little microphone. This works on iOS. It works on the BlackBerry device via the web. Works on the Android. So just take a look at your keyboard. It's not a feature of Salesforce. It's a feature of your mobile device that Salesforce1 does a really great job of leveraging. And yeah, I mean, it's a super cool feature just to be able to capture without having to type, especially if you're on the go, if you're having a walking meeting, or you pass someone on the street or in the hallway. It's a really great feature to just be able to capture some information. And again, that's one of the reasons why I like these very clean, very succinct publisher actions, is because I'm 2 clicks. I bring up the action, I click on my field, 3 clicks, click on the microphone button, and then I click save. I don't have to worry about scrolling or clicking edit or moving around. I don't have to worry about all right there in one place. So yeah, call notes for sales reps, leads, if you want to add some information to a description field or a comment field on a lead, really, really powerful mobile feature for users who are primarily in the field.
It's awesome. It's always a great demo too. So next question. So someone asked, how does Today bring in my Outlook calendar items? So the Today app is in Salesforce1, and it's actually an app that connects to the calendar on your mobile device. And so if you want to have your Outlook calendar items in your Today app, all you need to make sure is that your Outlook is syncing to your mobile phone. And so when you open up the native calendar on your mobile phone, that your Outlook items are there. And Salesforce1 will pull in all of those items that are right there on your native phone. And the great thing about today is that it pulls in those items and it gives it context in your CRM system. So if you have a 10 a.m. meeting with one of your customers, it'll actually connect it to that account, and you can seamlessly go from your meeting invite right to that account in Salesforce. So check out the Today app. It's a great app in Salesforce1.
And there's been a few questions on here asking for the SlideShare link so you can download the presentation that Steve and Chris did. And I literally just put it into SlideShare, and I just posted the link in the question and answer, but we'll also post it elsewhere so that you guys can easily find it. It's on actually the Salesforce admin SlideShare channel. So you can it's easy thing to find, but we'll definitely share the link with you.
Awesome. And then another question. This is one for Steve. So how are you presenting the mobile version of the iOS demos? Am I able to access the iPad view, to present demos to my users for a training tool?
Yeah, so this was at the recommendation of the folks at Salesforce. It's called Reflector. There's a 7-day demo, so I didn't pay the $12.99 for the license because I'm cheap. So you can download it there, and it just uses AirPlay. So I install the app, and as long as I'm on the same wireless network, it's just available via AirPlay. So shameless plug for that service. But yeah, this is the first time I've ever used it this week, but it's been pretty seamless. I haven't had any issues with it at all.
Great, and there's a bunch of other tools out there too. There's, Air Server is another great tool. You can also use, if you're using the latest version of you're on a Mac and using the latest version of the OS, you can use Yosemite and just plug directly into your machine using your Lightning cable. Or you can also use the browser version. If you go on your Salesforce URL and append the end to 1/1.app, it'll actually present the mobile view right inside your browser window. So all of these things are great training tools, great ways to show your team how the app works. You can make videos, get screenshots. It's a really great training tool, and it helps with adoption as well.
Yeah, and one presenter tip, it's always great to have a window with 1.app open in the background in case your demo fails, as I had here. But thankfully my demo went off without a hitch.
Great. So some more questions. So what is the difference between Salesforce1 and Salesforce Classic? So Salesforce Classic was really our very first mobile app. So this was our mobile app back in 2006 when we first put out our mobile app. And Salesforce Classic is still around today. It will be end of life at some point soon. So Salesforce1 is our new flagship mobile app. So it's really taken the best of some of the mobile apps we've had in the past, like Classic and Chatter Mobile and Touch, and really brought the best of all of those mobile apps and put it into one flagship mobile app. So Salesforce1 is our new flagship mobile app, so we highly recommend using Salesforce1.
Yeah, and I think if someone's asking about Classic, there's probably some BlackBerry users in the audience. If you're on a legacy BlackBerry operating system prior to BB10, Classic is the app that's available for you. You will get some success using Salesforce1 in the browser. If you're on a BB10 device, Salesforce is working very well in the web interface. There is a BlackBerry-built mobile app called Salesforce Connect for BlackBerry. It's a really capable app. It's got some nice integrations with the hub. It doesn't unfortunately support publisher actions or the action bar as of yet. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there because someone was asking about Classic because they're on a 9900 or something.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. So I think let's see. We have some other questions here. We're going to try and get to them. We have no more. Okay. All right. So if you guys have a question that was unanswered, we will try and get to them. Feel free to, check out the check out the Reg page for all the links for everything from today, including the SlideShare, and the recording will be posted up there in about a week or two after we get it uploaded to YouTube. Thank you everyone so much for coming today. And as a reminder, that slide, we have those great resources for you, the admin rollout guide, salesforce.com/mobile. We also have buttonclickadmin.com, which is the place for all things admin. So we've got podcasts, blogs, great resources on there. And as always, don't forget to go to the Success community. You can connect with your fellow admins and Salesforce experts on there. Thanks again so much to Steve for joining us today, and Chris.